Thank you. When you're born, you get a birth certificate. And your ability to find that birth certificate and the millions of papers, documents, and ideas that are going to come into your life from that day forward will directly affect the quality of your life, your relationships, even the amount of money you have. Now, let me get something straight first of all. Sometimes people think that because I'm an organizing consultant, I'm a neatnik. And the only thing I don't like about my career is that people will say, if you saw my office, you'd die. Well, you know what? I really don't care because it's your office. But I'm not a naturally organized person. I love to start things and I hate to finish them. I love the big picture and I hate the details. That's a recipe for disaster if there ever was one. And if you were to come into my home or office unannounced, you might look around and say, and people pay you money for organization? However, if you gave me 30 minutes notice and then showed up, everything would be in its place, not stuffed under the desk or in the closet. Because my life has been passionate for 30 years about helping people create and sustain what I call a productive environment. That's an intentional setting in which everything around you supports who you are or who you'd like to be. I believe that organizing is an art form. God created each one of us with a totally unique DNA, and it therefore follows that everybody organizes differently. Now, I suspect some of you are saying, well, what difference does my organization make to anybody else? When you work for an organization, when you work with other people who depend on you, the things that you handle affect everybody around you. And it is your responsibility to organize them in such a way that if you don't show up for work, somebody else can pick up the pieces. So if you're an artistic type like me and you're just not naturally organized, how do you go about doing that? Well, first of all, you want to measure whether or not it's organized. And to do that, there are 4 questions. The first question is, does what you're doing work? The second is, do you like it? Sometimes what you're doing works. My favorite example was a CFO of a large company who said, I know what you do. You help people have neat desks, and I'd like to have a neat desk, but every time I do, I can't find anything. Well, after we got his office organized, he said, for as long as I could remember, I've gone back into my office one Saturday morning a month to clean up the mess. I'll never have to do that again. The third question to find out if something's organized is, does it work for the other people it affects? And then the last one, which is probably the most important, is, can you recover? Let's face it, life is messy. Things happen. Businesses go through cycles and people come and leave, and you got conventions and tax times and vacation times, and things just get messy. But there's a key to being able to recover. And it's one of the things I want to share with you today. It's having a system. Now, I've never been very fond of acronyms because they always seem kind of contrived. But my consultant in South Africa gave me one for system that I fell in love with. Saving you space, time, energy, and money. Who doesn't want to do that? Well, that's exactly what a productive environment does. And what is your environment? Your environment may be your clothes closet. If you get up in the morning and you're rushing off to work, you can't find the clothes that you want to wear, or the buttons off, or you can't find your shoe, or you can't find your car keys, or you're ready to go to a meeting and the attachment that was on the email, it's suddenly just disintegrated somewhere. Let me ask you a question. How many of you left your office the last time with more pieces of paper lying around than you prefer? Anybody? How many of you have more than one screen of emails in your inbox? How many of you suspect that somebody in your organization recreated something that already existed in the organization, they just couldn't find it. Well, a productive environment is about being able to find exactly what you need when you do it. How do you do that? How do you do it so you can find it and like it? Because I said organizing is an art. People say to me, what should I do? That's the wrong question. The question is, what will you do? Because when we figure out what you will do, then we can organize it so that you like it and other people can find it. Now that's a real miracle. Now there's some principles I've learned in the last 30 years of doing that. I call them paper tiger principles. And the first one is, today's mail is tomorrow's pile. Now, what does that mean? It means, if your office is a mess and you say, okay, I've had it, I'm going to clean it up today, you start with the old stuff, right? That's the easiest. But what happens while you're over here starting with the old? The new stuff's coming in. It looks infinitely more threatening or important than the old, and you abandon the process, and nothing really changes. So when we work with clients, we say, forget what you did in the past. That's the past. It doesn't matter anyway. We're organizing for the future. Let's figure out what you need to do in the future and set up the system for the future. Second paper tiger principle. Clutter is postponed decisions. Have you ever sat down at your desk and said, okay, today's the day I'm going to clean up this mess? Pick up the first piece of paper, look at it, and think of any number of reasons why today is not a good day to deal with this one, and you put it over here. The second, the third, and before you know it, the pile that was on this side is now on this side. Or let's take email. Walk in the morning, just going to check email a little bit before I go to this meeting. Open, close, open, close, open, close. And before you know it, 90 minutes have gone by and nothing has changed except that you're more depressed than you were when you walked in the door. Clutter is postponed decisions. Now, when I first wrote Taming the Paper Tiger in 1988, people kind of laughed and said, what are you writing about paper for? Because, after all, we're going paperless. Well, I haven't seen too many paperless offices, but even more important, the principles that apply to paper also apply to electronic. They just changed the format. And what's even more significant is that, if I have a pile of papers, if I look long enough, I'll find it. But if it's electronic, it can be on that drive or that jump drive, or maybe it's on my laptop, or maybe I put it on the web or the intranet or maybe I left it. I don't know where it is. So the system, when we come to electronic, is more important than ever before. So I want to give you a very simple system. Clutter is postponed decisions. The good news is there's only 3 decisions you can make about any piece of paper or electronic information. I call it the file, act, toss system. File means I don't know if I'll ever need it, but I don't have the guts to throw it away. So I'm going to put it in a reference file, in a filing system, except what happens when I put it in a filing system? I can't find it. So instead, we're going to create a finding system. Now, act means the ball's in my court. Maybe it's a bill I need to pay, a discussion I need to have, a marketing campaign I'm doing, an agenda I need for a meeting in the future. So one very significant thing is that when you're filing something, you want to separate a reference file from an action file. And if you have a very big project, you may have several files with the same name. The action file contains the papers that I still need to do, that I'm actively working with right now. But the reference is the stuff I finished, but I just want to hold on to it. And then if I run out of reference room space and I'm still not willing to throw things away, I can create archives. That's another kind of reference, but it's a flow. People say to me, the problem is too much stuff comes in. No, the problem is too little stuff goes out. And that brings us to another important paper tiger principle, and it's what I call the art of wastebasketry. How many of you find it difficult to throw things away? Anybody?